I've got no idea if anyone can see me or hear me. Good evening, everybody. Oh, God, there are so many of you. That's probably why the internet's not working. The Moving Home with Charlie channel is getting completely overrun and taking down internet bandwidth around the southwest of England. Whew, I'm really sorry about this. It's a very frustrating time. Never mind. Let me get into it. I'm hoping everyone can at least hear me okay, even if I am coming to you as a pixelated. It's real Charlie, by the way. It's not AI Charlie. Real Charlie. Guys, I was thinking what to discuss this evening. And I went through my posts on X this week. And this is the post that had a staggeringly high number of views. And it's here. I said, honestly, everything's fine. The 764,000 mortgage payers whose sub 2.5% mortgage rates end this year, who will be facing monthly payment increases of around 40 to 50%, will probably not even notice it. Am I right, dudes? Clearly being sarcastic. And taking that much disposable income out of the economy will probably be fine also because, hey, business is booming for hospitality. Ignore the doomy headlines about record business failures and insolvencies and swinging job cuts. It's just mainstream media clickbait so we can disregard it, right? Jesus H. Christ, 2025 is going to be grim. Tell me I'm wrong because I really want to be wrong. And that post, which was citing this graph and an article from Bloomberg, which I'm about to go through, had 38,000 views just in the last couple of days and a huge number of reactions. And this is the article I actually took that graph from. It's an article on Bloomberg. And there's the graph that I used in the article. But I wanted to just drill into this a little bit more because it is important. UK homeowners brace for a surge in mortgage costs this year. More than 1 million households. So my number was actually quarters. It doesn't include Q4. More than 1 million households will see a significant jump in monthly payments, even as the Bank of England opens the door. I love the way they took it, to reducing interest rates. And interesting enough, the case study that they have in this story is a mortgage broker and his family. Take Akhil Mayer, a 40-year-old mortgage broker. He and his wife are looking for ways to stretch their incomes, aren't we all, with the rate on their 2-year fixed loan to increase this year to 4.65% from 1.38%. But to afford their monthly payment, which will jump 47% or around 700 quid to £2,015, they expect their family of 4 to cut on travel and restaurants, in addition to looking into higher yielding savings accounts. People say everything's fine. Rates are coming down. Are they? But we're still very much feeling it, he said. And this is the whole point. So I get so much rage about my expectation of house price falls being 35%. And on a daily basis, I see comments, get comments from people saying, you should stop saying that, Charlie. You should stop. It's dangerous. It's irresponsible. People are losing out on homes because of this. Well, first of all, I'm not responsible for anyone else's decisions. Okay, right? Whatever you do, whatever you buy or don't buy, whatever you decide to do, it's on you. And I have always said, I could be wrong. This is just what I think. But and I know I've also said that I would start to ignore having this argument about whether or not house prices are going to fall. But what I think it boils down to, the difference between how much further I expect house prices to fall and everybody else's expectations, comes down to how much worse the economy is going to be, how much worse I think the economy is going to be, and Alex, worse than everyone else thinks it's going to be. And most people do not see the economy, especially people who are just headline, mainstream media headline newsreaders. Anyone who just does that and otherwise goes about their life wondering why their friends are losing jobs, wondering why pubs and restaurants and shops are closing down, wondering why there's so much doom and gloom when everything's fine, isn't it? Because everything says it's fine. The government says it's fine. The news says it's fine. This is probably just a tiny recession, isn't it? And the Bank of England even said it's probably over already. And if you are someone like many of the people in the property industry who only want to hear good news, then you won't be able to see house prices falling as far as I think they're going to fall, especially given how well the falls are being covered up by the lag in land registry and house price reporting, and by the house price indices going all skew, whiff, and squiggly because of the change in transaction volumes and how that skews things and what I think is happening. But it really is. This is why, okay? It's because if you think about that, that's 1 million more households this year. So look at what's already happening to the economy. Now add in another 1 million mortgage holders having increased rates this year. Without a doubt, that's going to suck more money out of the economy, number one. And number two, a number of those people are going to be likely to be forced to either downsize or sell up completely, which will, of course, add fuel to the fire of house prices in their slow motion collapse over this period of time. That's what I think. And why do I think this is going to happen when almost everyone else, I mean, even many of you, even many of my loyal long-term channel followers say you enjoy watching the channel, but you don't share my view that house prices are going to fall that far, which is cool. That's fine. And, you know, again, maybe I'm wrong, but I look at it and I look really hard. And I look to see. I think it partly comes from having run businesses my entire life and having learnt the hard way about how P&L works, and having learnt the hard way to be able to see in advance what's going to happen to your P&L based on your margins. And looking at the economy in that context, I just can't see another way around this. I had someone yesterday say, but Charlie, the UK managers PMI, Purchase Managers Index survey, optimism survey, says it's going to be fine. The optimism score was 53%, which is more than economists expected. And that's what they say. Oh, they love to trot that line out, don't they? Much more than economists expected. It's a survey of people's optimism. Is it an indicator? Of course it's an indicator, but it's an optimism survey. It's not a measure of output or a measure of sales, is it? And if you look at it, we've had the RICS also being optimistic. Now, why are they being optimistic? Because they don't see the economy coming down. Because the news doesn't report how bad the economy truly is. It's so well smoke and mirrored and hidden about the true extent of what out there is a brutal recession for growing numbers of people. Even London Money, the mortgage broker who follows me on X, and I follow him, he shared a quote from some, what I think people he referred to as wealthy middle class customers who said to him, we've come to terms with the fact that we can no longer afford our lifestyle, which chimes with what Alex Gramwalt was saying. So, guys, I do hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see a recession. I don't want to see people's businesses failing and people's jobs being lost. I don't want to see that. I really hope I'm wrong. But I'm not basing my expectations of house prices or the economy on what the headlines say. You know, because that's the trap that many people fall into when they go out now. And let's just come on to this next point. They go out now because apparently, Barrett, Bellway, Persimmon and Taylor Wimpey and Berkeley Homes have agreed. I just found out this today. This came out on Friday afternoon after lunch, and I didn't see it until today. But this is, to me, staggering desperation and smacks of do whatever it takes to keep selling new build houses at an overprice. So this is a story in the Telegraph. First-time buyers warned, quite right, as lenders roll out sub 1% mortgages. And of course, that's a headline grabber. To get a sub 1% mortgage on the scheme, which I'll explain to you right now, you've got to have a 40% deposit. And you've got a 25% deposit, you can get a 1 point, where is it? Here we are. So to secure a 0.99% rate for 2 years, buyers need a 4% deposit. 25% deposit will get you 1.8%, and a 10% deposit, 3.78% rate. 5-year rates start 2.95%. So on a discounted rate of 0.99% with maximum contribution from a developer, a borrower, and this would be one with 40%, could whittle their repayments down from £1,600 to £880, a £756 reduction. I'm going to say this, I'm just going to be absolutely blunt about it. Anybody who takes that scheme up is a financial numpty. There we are. I picked the kind, I went through a lot of rude words in my head then and then stopped them. Because, as it says in that article, the developer pays, where is it? They pay them up front. I want to just get this actual quote again. Here it is. Barrett, let me get it back up on screen so you can read it for yourself. Bellway, Persimmon, Taylor Wimpey, and Berkeley Homes, so all the biggest house builders in the have agreed to make a prepayment of interest to lenders to bring buyers' initial monthly payments down. Halifax and Virgin Money will offer these deals from Monday. However, after the 2 or 5 year fixed rate period, the rate will jump back up to normal levels. I would like to think that anyone financial discipline and wherewithal to accumulate a 40% deposit for their new home would not be stupid enough to take this deal up, because all that has happened is that the home builder is taking the profit from you overpaying for the home and giving it to the bank, so that the bank gets their money either way, and then the bank says, oh, here you are, here's a nice discount on your interest rate, because the builder has paid for this discount out of you muggins overpaying for the house. I've said from the beginning, never ever take financial incentives from new home builders. If they're going to upgrade the property, that's a worthwhile incentive. If they're going to help you on into a property that you couldn't otherwise get into, that's a worthwhile incentive. But this is just total, it's like cash back on credit cards. You know, if you've got a credit card balance that you aren't clearing, your cash back on those cards is your fucking money from overpaying for the goods that you're buying. Anyway, I hope no one on this, I mean, okay, what have I missed, guys? Tell me what I've missed. Tell me how this scheme from new builders in cahoots with banks, tell me how this is actually a good idea for anybody. Who does it? Because it doesn't change with your mortgage affordability. It's just like getting a 2 or 5 year teaser rate, and then your mortgage will jump up. And of course, what happens then? Do you think that when you buy a brand new build, which just like a new car, loses a big chunk, or the profit margin, it loses a big chunk of its value the moment you turn the key in the lock on the first day in there? Do you think it's going to be worth more or less 2 years from now, 5 years from now? If it's your forever home, and you know that 2 or 5 years from now you're going to be able to afford the increase in the mortgage repayment because you are on an absolutely concrete career trajectory and there's no chance of losing your job and your income is going to be rising, so that's not a problem, and you're sure that you've battered the developer over the head down to a price that you're not overpaying, I'd still say to the developer, however much you're going to give the lender so that they can discount my mortgage rate, could you please just take that off the fucking price? Norlis makes a very, very salient point. No one ever went broke underestimating the intelligence of the public. Can't argue with that. So guys, The purpose of this evening's video, and I'm here to take questions now. I've had my 15-minute rant. I'm here to take questions. Oh, fantastic. Another success story. Leo Jilka, I took your advice, sent a best and final offer showing mortgage and principal, showing some funds, showed that the estate agent personally, it was successful. Awesome. Fantastic. Congratulations. Am I still blurred? There's nothing I can do about it. If I'm blurred, I'm blurred. There's nothing to do about it. Yeah. Okay, Steve Clayton says, hi, Charlie. A lot of people at the end of their mortgage deal will pay down or pay off their mortgage balance rather than pay 5% interest. Okay, well, that assumes that they're going to have the capital to do it, number one. And even if they do, as you say, they will still have the builder will have taken money out of the profit of the sale of the property to give to the lender. And for the builder, remember, all the builders are doing is trying to make the ticket price, sticker price, still look high. So on the land registry, the amount you paid still looks high, because that's the way they keep on justifying higher prices and stop their prices coming down. Yeah, honestly, if you tried to run a business like the UK runs a government, like the UK government runs our finances, you'd be so bust. You'd just be, it's an absolute mess. Okay, guys, do we have any questions? Paris Hilton says, how do we help first-time buyers get on the property ladder? Is it that we should call for more wages, or will wages eventually match house prices? Well, I'm glad you put those two things rather than give them free money, because it is down to wages. It is down to people being able to earn enough to save up a deposit. Now, I think, as Lewis Shaw said the other day, a 3% deposit is the minimum, the legal minimum you have to save to buy a property in the States. I imagine, but I don't know that they brought that law in after 2008. But the only way, Paris, that we get to help first-time buyers into the property ladder is to make homes more affordable, to make them not cost as many times a multiple of salary as they do, by not doing anything to artificially increase house prices. And every single time the government does anything that artificially props up house prices, they are hurting us all in the long run. Now, you might think, oh, if you already own a property and they do that, great, puts your property value up. In the long run, if you don't pay, your kids are going to pay. As a lot of boomers are now finding out right now. Like, it comes home to roost. There is no, you can't keep inflating something without eventually it goes bang, it goes pop, and it will come down. So the answer, Paris, is to allow house prices to reach their natural level without help to buy, without government guaranteed mortgages. That's just the taxpayer taking the risk on a reckless first-time buyer buying when they shouldn't be. They should remove all these things and house prices won't go up so much, and then more people will be able to buy them sooner anyway. And then house prices won't fall again. Yeah. You know, it's a bit like everywhere you look, it's these large corporations that are the worst offenders at this shit. There are some small developers who, you know, they're not nearly as bad at this sort of thing. There are some small developers who employ their staff and they're long-term. They've been running businesses for years. They've been building houses for years. And they've got full-time employees, and they don't need to borrow. They don't overborrow. They don't overextend themselves. They don't get this desperate and then need this price pumping. But I'm amazed that news on Friday about this new build mortgage discount didn't. It's like it's gone under the radar, isn't it? Every time you interfere with the market, someone will pay for it unfairly. Richard Wemble. Hello, Richard. A fresh name I don't recognize. Welcome to the channel if you're new. Hi, Charlie. First time buyer here. Looking for a property in Norfolk, but I'm struggling to understand what asking prices are a good value proposition. I don't want to overpay and end up in negative equity. So a point I've made before, but not for a while, is that ultimately you should disregard asking prices. Look at properties you want to buy if they've been sticking around in the market for quite a long time, that would suggest they are overpriced anyway. So especially stuff that's been around for 6 months or more. And some of the houses that have been on with the same agent for 4 or 5 months without selling will be coming to the end of their 6-month lock-in period, which will be the time that the agent is most keen to get it sold. Because they've kept the seller on the shelf, not being sold for a long time so that they can mis-sell mortgages to people coming in their doors. Oh, well, they're coming to the end of their solid. And those are the ones that you should, if you look at them and think, oh, that's much too expensive, go and look at it anyway. Go and look at it anyway. And work out what it's worth to you. So I have done, recently I did a video on how not to overpay. So Richard, go and look that up if you haven't seen it. But if you're out viewing enough properties, and what you'll do is you'll start to notice the properties that are selling quickly. And so you'll start to get a feel for what are the prices of properties that are selling quickly. And the good agents out there are selling stuff quickly because they're pricing it sensibly. They've got open-minded, switched-on sellers who've read the writing on the wall and gone, okay, I need to sell, I want to sell, let's get a really good agent, price it properly, and they sell. Within 28 days, they get it under offer, right? That gives you an idea where the actual market is. And so go and look for the ones, and go and be prepared to view 10 to 20 properties until you find that ultra motivated seller who just wants it sold, and you're in the right place at the right time. You put your offer in that you feel comfortable isn't overpaying for you, for that area, for that property, for your financial circumstances, for how long you're planning to stay there. That's the way to do it. So I hope that answers that question, Richard. And by the way, guys, it's been great. There's been a real increase of people joining the 15 quid a month Movers Q&A club. And you're starting to get the idea about it, which is that I guarantee to answer all questions that come through the private messages on the Movers Q&A club. And there are a lot of you who are sending messages as you go through the process, asking me for advice on the response. I had a great one today, someone saying, this is the response I've had from the agent on my offer. And they gave me the prices, the details. And I was able to show them exactly what games that agent was playing and what it really meant and stuff. So if you haven't already and you'd like to do that, rather than booking one-to-one with me, on buymeacoffee.com/ MHWC, which is that URL there on the screen. You can join that club or book a video call with me. And if you remember that club, video calls are cheaper as well. There's a discount on the video on those videos. Video calls. Just looking for more questions. Do we have more questions here? Aaron Hughes says, spoke to an estate agent who told me properties not selling in my town, Swanage, due to unrealistic sellers not acknowledging house prices have reduced. Well, it's good of an agent to say that. Offers being put forward but not accepted. Well, this is also the whole problem of overpricing coming home to roost again. And the more I look into this and the more time I spend thinking about it, the worse it is. Which reminds me, I've got to just show you this other post that I had up the other day, because if anyone sees this, here we go. This was on a Purple Bricks listing. Purple Bricks will request, so this is on the details of a property, right? Purple Bricks will request financial affordability checks on all interested parties prior to viewing. Such will be mandatory prior to an offer being considered. That is illegal. That is literally the definition of conditional selling. I can't believe how. I know I've been in touch with the boss of Purple Bricks, a chap called Sam, messaging him, and I just think they're just clinging on to it as they go down. They are purely surviving on selling financial products, and putting that on the details of a property is like a smoking gun that you're guilty of breaking the law. And the reason they get away with that is because there's no enforcement. Unbelievable. And that's on a 2-bed bungalow for 800 grand. That better be a pretty special 2-bed bungalow, hadn't it? Oh, Tommy Two Stroke So Tommy Two Stroke is a seller. Welcome. I think I can't remember if I recognize your name or not. I have a 1-bedroom flat going on the market this coming week, prime West London. I would accept 300k. The nearest flat over the road is 440k. This will be interesting. Agents tell me I am giving it away. Tommy, if you have priced it too low, what you will find is you'll get a lot of buyers very, very quickly. And if you've got a good enough agent, they will manage those offers carefully and find out what the market will pay you for your flat in this market, right? You will find out what the market is for your flat. So the most important thing is to talk to your agent and make sure you get the marketing price, the launch marketing price, just right. You get that just right, you get competing buyers at a sensible level, and you'll find out what the maximum you can actually get for it is. Good luck with that. Do we have more questions? Here we are. Aaron Hughes says, what do you think of properties that have been unsold now for 2 or more years? How can sellers be so stubborn and so frustrating? Just ignore them. They're total time wasters. I know people like this. They have convinced themselves of the value of their property being X amount. I mean, they would swear on their children's lives that it's worth this much money. And one of the ways they go about convincing themselves it's worth that much money is to put it on the market with the price tag that they think it's worth and just leave it there. It's worth that much. Muppets. Kiran Rohit, I'm not sure what your actual question is. Festi on YouTube. I'm assuming, Festi, you're referring to that new builders backhanding lenders to give cheap mortgages. Smells of attracting those with gifted deposit and NAFL income to cover a mortgage. Interesting. Machine 0182 says, what do you think about long-term fixed mortgages coming into the UK market? Got quoted 5.86% on a 90% loan to value for 30 years fixed versus 4.48% on a 5-year fixed. Seems quite good for that. Okay, well, that just depends entirely on whether or not you want long-term certainty or not. Obviously, you're paying, what is that, a 1.4% premium to have 30 years fixed. But with a 30-year fix, you are never going to have your mortgage payment change. If you don't want to move, I mean, even if you can move, I mean, I think you can port that mortgage and stuff. I mean, it's interesting. It's exciting. I've actually been talking to Perenna Mortgages because one of the things I like about that is it would actually help some people get properties they couldn't otherwise get and stay in there for longer. Tina Fays, give us an update on that question from the last video when you asked whether or not you should ask the agent whether that property you wanted has sold yet or not. And you've asked the agent about that house and they say the sale is still proceeding and we'll let you know if anything changes. Yep, see, always worth it. Ellen Samir says, I once called to book a viewing with Jackson Robinson. They asked for proof of funds prior to viewing. Right. This is a nuanced, balanced, delicate topic. On the one hand, it is part of the estate agent's service to prevent the seller having their time wasted and the agent having their time wasted by people saying that they can buy, having an offer accepted, and then you get all the way through to exchange and find out they can't get a mortgage. And everyone's time is wasted and the seller's missed the market. Okay, so it is not unreasonable for an estate agent to ask for proof of funds. Almost all of them will do it. How you provide the proof of funds is up to you. Now, if you don't care about them knowing that you've got lots of money because you're confident enough to stick to your own price without being manipulated up, then there's no harm in showing them that you've got sufficient funds for the property. If, however, you're dealing with one of the lying, backstabbing shites of the corporate in-house mortgage broking agents that will literally already have sold off their grandmothers just to sell a mortgage and aren't selling houses and they're passing by cash offers so they can sell mortgage offers to you. If you're dealing with agents like that, then absolutely do not provide them with proof of your funds or talk to their in-house mortgage broker, but get your own independent mortgage broker to provide evidence by way of an email or a phone call and say, yeah, I can provide proof of funds. You can talk to a mortgage broker. And if you've got a decision in principle, the mortgage broker will be able to say, yeah, I can confirm they've passed the credit checks and they will be able to afford this property. Okay, that's how you do it without having to divulge your actual balance. Annie Anonymous says, lol, I went to 2 Purplebricks viewings in the last 2 weeks. Yes, but was that with an agent or was it just the sellers showing you? Interesting, they didn't ask not asked to show anything re-affordability checks. I don't think they're going to be around much longer. So Purplebricks went out of business. At one point, it was valued on the stock market by £1 billion. This goes to show you how badly wrong the stock market can get it, right? They valued a loss-making business at £1 billion, and not long after that, it was sold for £1. It was sold for £1 as a going concern to Strike, who sell houses for free because they make all their money on financial services commissions and things like that. Strike bought Purplebricks for £1 because the brand, you still got lots of people who just think Purplebricks, oh, those are the guys that sell the house. And I just, it's no longer publicly listed, so they aren't having to publicize their performance. But Strike has had to raise finance again and again and again. I just don't know how long they're going to be around. Looking for more questions. Okay, that's a fair question. BLXCK on YouTube asks, if we've gone through half the remortgages, you mean the rising rates, and this is the current impact, why will the second half be worse or any different? Well, because it'll be twice as much as we've currently got. And you say this is the current impact. It sounds like you're someone that doesn't think that anything's wrong and thinks that everything's fine, and there isn't a recession, and there aren't lots of closing businesses, and house prices aren't really falling because you believe the house price indices that they're actually going up. And if you this is exactly what they want you to think. The land registry says house prices have only fallen 1% in the last year, and Halifax says house prices are going up, and the government says this recession is only a technical one, is a really short one, and even the BBC says it's only going to be a short recession. So what's Charlie on about? Is he just doing it for clicks and likes? I can see why people would think that if they believe the headlines that you read, that everything's fine. But if you look beyond the headlines and realize, and by the way, guys, so the best agent, okay, so I'm still going around in circles on the name of this because someone said, don't call it the People's Home Price Index, call it the Public Home Price Index. So, he said people sounds a bit like the communist state. But anyway, the house prices that are being reported coming in there, so these are sales that are not yet reported on the land registry, so they're recent exchanges, and we can cross-reference them against the last sale of that property on the land registry and see what's really happening to house prices. And I can tell you that we haven't seen a single one yet where a purchase that happened in the last 3 or 4 years where they're making any more. I mean, it's sort of back down at best to 2018 prices on the exchanges that are coming through so far. I mean, it's not a big enough sample, and there could be all kinds of reasons that it's skewed. But at the moment, BLXCK, to answer your question, I think that one of the reasons that we are in recession now is precisely because of people's disposable income being eviscerated by rising rents and mortgages. And it's already caused this recession. It's going to continue getting worse for another year. So you're going to see a doubling of how bad it already is. And twice as bad. I mean, that's only one part of the economy, of course, but it's really interesting. I mean, you're a new name that I don't recognize here, so you probably don't know the full extent of my opinions on this. But that's like saying if 50,000 mortgages going up has given this much badness, why would 100 give that much badness? Well, because it'll take twice as much money out of the economy. Oh, Ruth, it's not a case of buying something you love, but more of a case of how much crap you're prepared to compromise on. That's a sad truism, I think. Yes, Gavin Ward, the banks do need FCA approval on such a deal, and I think that article actually does contain it. I can't read it. I'm not sure. It doesn't actually say that, so you might be right. So, Shizzle Biscuit the Third. Oh, that's a strong YouTube name. First time buyer. Sellers overpaid 4 years ago. A lot of people did. They've priced 15% over what I think it's worth, 25% over what the neighbours went for a year ago. I'm thinking of offering them 3% over what they paid. Is that crazy? I'm assuming you're the only offer in town, Shizzle Biscuit the Third. In which case, if that's a comfortable amount to you, and you would be comfortable proceeding with the purchase of that property, having done your research on what the other ones are worth, I don't think it's crazy at all. In fact, if there are no other offers, there's no offer that's crazy. An offer is an offer. It's the only offer. So good luck. Make your offer. Make sure you've got everything to maximize, in case you're a new user here, maximize your chances of getting your offer accepted by making it easier for the agent to recommend it to the seller by saying they've already got their conveyancer instructed, they've already got their decision in principle and mortgage, they've got proof of funds, and they're ready to buy the property search pack immediately on the day that you accept the offer, if you accept the offer, which means that the transaction will go through much faster. All right. And just Google first time buyer offer email template, Moving Home with Charlie. And you'll find the full email template for how to make that offer and what you need to do it. Connor Holloway says, in the process of buying of right to buy in London at 125k off market value, good or bad idea now? Joint with granddad's parents. My first question always here is, depends how long you want to stay there. If you're staying there indefinitely, and you end up owning the home that you want to live in, that you already live in, and you've got rights to buy, giving the chance to buy it, you're in a very fortunate position that I don't even know if they're going to keep that going for much longer. So, what are your alternatives? Stay renting forever, or go and buy something where you haven't got the discount? I think, Connor, it's a fairly easy decision for you, I think. I mean, I don't know what the actual market value is you're referring to. The value may come down a bit in the future, but again, if you're staying there indefinitely and you can afford your mortgage, I'm assuming you can afford the rent there. So as long as your mortgage isn't more than your rent, you're going to be good. RG Bargy says, I saw an ad by an estate agent today charging you for checking your proof of funds identity. I'm not sure they're allowed to do that. Could you message me proof of that? I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a link to that, because I'll look into that. Aaron Hughes says, what do you think of estate agents passing details onto their recommended mortgage broker but claim they're not in-house? Look, as a rule, generally don't use the broker that an agent recommends. Generally, as a rule. Are there exceptions to that? Yes. But generally, it's always better for you to go and find an independent whole of market mortgage broker that you've chosen because they're the one that you like the most of the ones that you've spoken to. All right. Generally, because if you do that, then there's no possibility of the agent and the broker talking to each other behind your back to let them, for the broker to tell the agent how much you can really borrow, so the agent then comes back and makes you pay for more for the property. The only way to avoid that happening is to never use the agent's recommended broker. Claire de la Mare says, I have my mortgage in principle, wanted to view properties that I'm being pressured into using their mortgage advisor who keeps calling me. You've got to put, okay, I put a link on X to this the other day, the government rules that say that is illegal. If you've got a mortgage in principle and you can get your broker to also call the agent, you've got to ask them to stop doing that. Say, please stop pressuring me. Just say those words. You're making me feel pressured. I've already got a mortgage in principle. Sanjay, who I assume is a seller in TW3, I put our house, a 3-bed semi, on the market in October 2023, so 5 months ago, at 550,000 in TW3. Have had 20 plus viewings, no offers until one that started at 480 and is pushed up to 520. House needs little updates, so market is tough. You going to accept that, Sanjay? You've been waiting 5 months to sell and you got an offer that's only 30 grand below your asking price. I'd be keen to take that if it's a solid offer, based on what you've said. Nikki Knight says, an estate agent is asking for a reservation fee of £1,000. If I pull out, or if the deal takes longer than 6 months to complete, they keep the fee. If the sale goes through okay, then they return the fee. Any comments? I think reservation fees have a place when the market is strong and there's a shortage of property and buyers are fighting over each other to get one, because it tends to make sure that that you don't get gazumped. But in a falling market, I don't see the value of it, and I'd say, nah, sorry. I want to buy it, but I'm not prepared to lose £1,000 if something changes and I have to pull out. I mean, if they've got other people offering, they might take other people's offer over yours if the other people do want to pay a reservation fee. Yeah, it happens. It happens. I mean, if it's a committed transaction they're asking for, then it's not unreasonable for them to ask for a commitment. Okay, committed transactions, which is effectively what they have in Scotland, does work better. I don't think it's okay that the estate agent gets to keep the reservation fee. It should really be the seller if the buyer pulls out, and vice versa. So I'm not like hardcore against those, because if the buyer and seller agree and there's a reservation fee down, they've both put some skin in the game, you've got a committed transaction, or a much more committed transaction than you otherwise would have, and that might suit both of you. Jack on X is asking the £1 million question. Do estate agents make more from mortgage or property sale commissions? From big to small agents, right? Just waiting while I process a lot of the rage from the last couple of weeks I've had about this. Without commenting on exactly how much the property sale commission is or the mortgage commission is, because they vary enormously, right? They can both vary enormously. If an estate agent sells a property to a cash buyer, for example, then they only make the sale fee on the commission of that property. But if that estate agent sells that property to someone that's taken a mortgage with them, then they're going to make twice as much. So the agents with in-house brokers are motivated to decline cash offers, which is why cash buyers should be extra vigilant about getting evidence that your offer has been sent to the seller. And if you have any doubts about it, go and put your offer through their letterbox and call out the agent. And if the agent's lied to you, it turns out they lied to you, make sure you've got evidence that the agent's lied, because you will then let the seller get out of having to pay the agent's fee, and maybe you can split the difference between you. Right? If you can prove that one of those lying shite agents has done that and turned down an asking price cash offer in favor of a smaller offer and then the seller finds out that you made the offer and they did want it, make sure you prove to the seller the agent didn't forward your offer. And then the seller, say to the seller, don't pay the agent now. They've lied to you. They're literally committing fraud. And whatever the agent's fee was, you should split it between you, the buyer and the seller, I think. Because you've got to punish these fuckers. We've got to stop them doing it. We've got to stop those sharks. Because, Jack, the point I want to go on to make here is that the worst offenders at this are listing properties at they're going in to some poor, unwitting, naive and trusting person to sell the house, and they're saying, "Oh, we can get you £30,000 more than the other agent did." And they go, "Oh, really? Can you? Oh, wow, that's lovely. What do I need to do? You just need to sign here." "Oh, okay." And they just sign without reading it and realize they've signed themselves into a 6-month-long sole agency contract, meaning that seller cannot go and list with another agent for that period of time. And during that time, they will use that property, all the inquiries that they get on that property, they will use to sell a mortgage and another mortgage and another mortgage and another mortgage. So your question is a good one, but actually misses the mark, because it's how many mortgage commissions can they make off each property that they list before they sell it? And that is a very good question that I would like to know the answer to, because I think that is a demonstrable conflict of interest inside the agent's offices, and it needs to stop. Knowless. My expectations in life are subterranean these days, and yet they still fail to be met. Yeah. Actual house price index. Oh, I like that. Oh God, you guys are giving me so many. I've got to communicate the fact that it's, but yeah. Oh, actual. Oh, because that's a slap in the face for the others, isn't it? If I call it the actual house price index, I like that. 'HED says, tried entering my exchange price data into the best agent house price index, but it can't find my address using the postcode or UPRN. Okay, it should do. If it's the correct address or the postcode, we should 100% get the correct address. Please, could you email, I'll put in the live chat right now, support@bestagent.ltd. Email that email address so that my support team can check it out, and we'll look at so the addresses come from the Ordnance Survey government address database. This is how we're able to verify every price being entered is for an actual specific precise known address, and it's how we're able to make sure that we can link it up with the land registry later on down the line. And there are people successfully entering house prices. But if you have got stuck with the address, we'd love to hear it, because we've just got to debug this and make sure it works. It's very important. Before we get really do the big publicity, we've got to make sure that everyone can put their address in easily. Where on earth did that just go? Oh my God. Oh, we are. So okay, right. So I'm just going to scroll up to check I haven't missed any questions. Yeah, the Power says it would be interesting to see how some data on how Rightmove and others' previous reports compare with actual sold price data for the last 5 years or so, just to see how wrong they were. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, Rightmove says that the average house price is 360 grand, and the land registry says no, it's 285 grand. Shady Shack makes a really good point about the mortgages. Most of the recent mortgage renewals still have a 12-month forbearance, so the real effect of the first offer is still to come. Quite right, absolutely right. The 12-month forbearance and the higher than previous number of fixed rates has really had the effect of making this house price downturn into a real thing of slow motion, and we're not seeing the symptoms we'd expect to see previously as quickly as you'd normally have seen them. Clario says, getting keys tomorrow on my first house. Been watching your channel for a while now. Thanks. You are welcome. Is that Claro? Not Clario. Anyway, thank you, Claire. If your name is Claire, congratulations, and very excited for you to move into a new house. That's very exciting. Cool. Questions. Yeah, urban achiever. So guys, this is another reason why if you're a seller, you should always come to the market contract ready. And if you're a buyer, you should always ask the agent, is the seller contract ready? Urban Achiever says, I'm trying to buy a place. The estate agent told me the seller is being unreasonable not to accept a very fair offer. The seller is rich and intends to wait for the market to meet their value. Well, they'll be waiting a very long time. When you get sellers like this, they're just colossal time wasters. And if I was an agent, I wouldn't take them on. But one of the ways of finding out if they're a time waster is to ask, is the seller contract ready or not? And if not, how soon can they be? That's a really strong qualifying question as a buyer to find out whether the seller is a time waster or not. And if you ask the agent, they say, oh, not sure. They should be sure. They should know, because the estate agent's got to get the sale through. So what do you mean you're selling this house and you don't know if the seller's contract ready or not? What kind of amateur shit show is this? And if they say, oh, we'll have to ask the seller and find out, and they come back, again, it shouldn't be a vague answer. It should be, well, I want to know, how fast does the seller want to sell? There's someone made a comment on X today, or was it on YouTube actually? Which I can't remember who it was, but it was a very one. It was one of the reasons that this commenter said that they feel everything's massively overpriced is because a huge amount of buy-to-let properties coming back to the market in terrible condition. And so compared to people who are selling their own home, those conditions are looking much, much worse. And again, they're being over optimistic on the value of their properties. Yeah, that was an interesting comment, I thought. Channel C says, what is your opinion on Habito for a broker? This isn't an opinion on Habito, it's about any broker. It's how do you feel at the end of a conversation with someone from them, right? Online mortgage broking cannot do the same job as a human being mortgage broker. Because online mortgage broking can only just compare rates and prices, and it's a price comparison engine. It won't ask you, for example, how confident are you that your marriage is going to survive? It won't ask you, for example, how long until your wealthy grandmother dies and leaves you the money that she's promised you? It won't ask you these sorts of questions. It won't ask you about, what is the likelihood of you selling in 2 years or 5 years' time, because that affects which product we look at because of the early repayment clause. And so the answer about what is my opinion on any mortgage broker is, after you've had a conversation with them, how do you feel about how much they really cared about your personal circumstances, not your financial circumstances, your personal circumstances, because that's the broker I'd want to deal with. And that's why I have the guys that I work with, which is a lovely opportunity to plug them right now, right there, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage, to talk to one of the two brokers I work with who I've handpicked because I trust them, because they do really care about their human being customers. So that's my answer about any broker. Do you feel that they've just given you a corporate spiel? Do you feel that they are just wanted to get you into their product and into their funnel? And do you feel processed by them? Or do you feel that they had time for you, that they really cared about you and they care about your situation, and that the questions that they're asking are, it's a surprisingly good question. Didn't think about that. Because that's what you should be looking for in a broker. Kylo Hawk asks me, do you feel as confident about your 35% price fall expectations you did this time last year? Yes, Kylo, I actually feel more. My expectation level is now higher than it was this time last year. In a nutshell. Just looking for the next questions, and oh my God, I thought we could for half an hour, we go for an hour. I can't believe it. Hi, thank you guys. Thank you all for giving me so much of your time. This is fantastic. I'm assuming it's because it's useful. Okay, I'm being corrected here. Nicholas Walden says, please read about the PMI index, the Purchase Managers Index. It is based on stocks, orders, and purchases. It is not an optimism index. It is the best leading indicator for economic performance that exists, as bad as it is. All right, Nicholas. Hello, welcome, new name. Thank you for challenging me. I'm going to just push back and challenge you back here. I know what it's based on, as in stocks. How much stock levels do companies have in whatever business they've got, where they're buying and selling stuff? Advance orders, and so therefore stuff they're going to have to purchase in to meet the advance orders, and their purchases. Hence, it's called the Purchase Managers Index. But it is not a measured, it's not an index of actual inventory, is it? That they don't have, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't actually apply in the same way as the RICS asks its surveyors what their opinions are about prices 3 months from now and 12 months from now, and the result in the survey that we read is a balance based on how many said higher and how many said lower. It's not a numerical representation. It is, and where I saw it described, it is an optimism. It's a measurement of the optimism of these guys. But you said, as bad as it is, it's the best leading indicator for economic performance that exists. That's your opinion. I don't know whether that is widely accepted fact that it's best. But I mean, for example, Nick, do you know how many purchase managers actually contribute to that? What, as a proportion of the entire UK's industry, relevant industries, what proportion are being surveyed? Do we know? Annie Anonymous says, why are houses that have sat on the market not moving their prices and not selling for 6 to 12 months suddenly started selling now, 2 to 3 beds? I've noticed this a lot in the last 3 weeks. Well, I can't speak specifically for the individual properties, but I think that there'll be a few contributing factors to this. First of all, there will be some sellers who've just gone, this has been long enough. We're not going to get the price we wanted. Let's get it sold now. We've waited too long. Let's get it sold. There'll be some doing that. Secondly, the people who are really looking at the economic indicators and who are waiting whether we're going to recession or not, are going to be, oh, we've just gone into recession. That changes our mind. Let's drop the price because the house prices are not going to go up while we're in recession and we need to move. We can't wait long enough to come back up. Let's drop the price and sell. And I mean, I don't know. It could be 2 to 3 beds. So that the 2 to 3 bed properties are the ones experiencing the most demand from downsizing detached house owners and upsizing first-time buyers who are now second-time buyers. So it might be that. Just a guess. A mere shake. This is really important. Anyone has a conveyancer that tells them this is a flat-out falsehood. When I told Amir Sheikh says, when I told my conveyancer that I may purchase my search pack myself, they said, I would not recommend you obtaining the search pack because we won't get our referral commission. I mean, the searches may not be insured. Many conveyancers, it's quite normal, they make a little bit of money on the search packs that they sell you, which is why they won't recommend you get them anywhere else. But the search packs that you get through me are 100% insured. Any conveyance, they are as official and regulated and fully authorized as any search pack you can get. So you have to call bullshit on them, I'm afraid. I mean, they're not saying, well, if they say they will not be insured, that I'd say to them, how do you know? How can you know they're not being insured? You haven't even seen the ones we're looking at. If you want, send them to this URL on the screen right here, mhwc.co.uk/property-pack. Send them that link and say, can you just tell me again if you think they're not insured? Because that's just not true. Thanks, Amir, for bringing that to my attention. MZ says, we are being pressured by the estate agent to use their in-house conveyancer. And it's the same one used by the seller to speed it up. That's not allowed either. Right. The same conveyancer cannot represent the buyer and the seller. Some firms will say, we've got Chinese walls within and we have a department over there and department over there. They don't talk to each other about the transactions and they might find a way around it. But generally speaking, Thomas Legal, who's an award-winning conveyancer that I work with, have said they cannot and will not represent both sides of a transaction because it's a conflict of interest, number one. Number two, never use the estate agent's in-house conveyancer. Same reason, conflict of interest. The estate agent represents the seller. Your conveyancer represents you. They can, and they will. If the estate agent's got them in-house, they'll talk to each other, and they won't be representing your best interest because that conveyancer's best interest is keeping the estate agent sweet because they give them loads of business. That shocking story I told a few months ago about that person buying in London through that agency that starts with an F and ends with Oxtons, who were forced into it, and it was absolutely horrific. So my position is never use an estate agent's in-house recommended conveyancer. Neil Hamilton asks, is over measuring floor plans a known issue? Saw it once. Wife wasn't convinced floor plan was accurate. We got an independent party to measure an advertised size out. Okay, so advertised was 900 plus square feet, actual 796. So when you see a floor plan, if you want, and I know this because I actually got into this industry by providing floor plans to estate agents in London over 20 years ago. If it doesn't say that it was done in compliance with the RICS Code of Measuring Practice, then the internal square footage measurement cannot be relied upon. Okay, and will almost always overread. So never believe what it says on the floor plan, because unless it was done by a surveyor or following the surveyor's methodology of measuring them, they won't be accurate. And they can't be, because this is important, because if you are working out a price per square foot and it's wrong, the agent can be sued, by the way. I know this because one of my estate agent clients in London got sued because of their previous floor plan provider overstating the state of the property by 10%, the size of the property by 10%, and the estate agent got sued for 10% of the value of the property. So watch out for floor plan square foot measurements that if it doesn't say Code of RICS. Measuring, sorry, that's right, Code of Practice. The RICS Code of Measuring Practice. Kylo Hawk asks, I've seen a property on the market for 4.5 months, offered 7% under. Seller won't accept less than 5% under. Should I stick to best and final? They've had no other offers. Again, I will repeat this as often as I need to. If you have offered your maximum comfortable price, then the answer is, of course, you should always stick to it, because you should never go above your maximum comfortable price. If you haven't paid the maximum comfortable price, and you can go to 5% under and comfortably happy to buy it on that basis, then you can do that and you secure the property. Or you can take the gamble of holding out and waiting to see if you can get 2% off. So if they've had no other offers, you might just have to play the waiting game and you might get lucky. Good luck. Right, guys, I've got to wrap this up. I've gone over time and I've got other stuff to do this evening, as I'm sure lots of you have too. Guys, I'm just going to, forgive me, I'm going to just bail out of the questions now, call it an evening, and say that you can find me, my Movers Q&A club, and book a video with me and talk to my mortgage guys and talk to my conveyancing guys, all on mhwc.co.uk. And my first time buyer offer email template, it's all there. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic night. Remember, if you are a seller, don't overprice. And if you are a buyer, don't overpay. But if you find a home that you love, that you can afford, and you want to live in for a long time, it's always the right time to buy it is when you find it and have your offer accepted, as long as you haven't overpaid. Thanks, guys. See you on the next one. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m, I've got a guest estate agent on, and we are talking about overvaluing. 7 p.m, Monday evening. See you there. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.